Good day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us live from wherever you are. For those who don't know me, my name is James Weeks. I'm the author of the book Meditations Across the Kings River African Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. I'm also the founder of the Across the Kings River Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And the mission of the Across the Kings River Foundation is to promote wellness, both emotional and spiritual wellness, to promote African wisdom and spirituality, and STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, as well as financial empowerment strategies for creating generational wealth. Today, I'm so honored to have a very special guest with us, joining us from Barbados, Mr. Paul Seeley. Mr. Paul Seeley is a master at transformational living. He's a transformational coach. He's what we call a mindset master. He's on a mission to empower people. He also has a background in hypnotherapy, as well as other healing and wellness modalities. Paul Seeley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, James. I'm honored to be here in your presence and presence of your followers and your community. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Before we get into the meat of our conversation, I wanted to start by asking you what led you into wellness to begin with. I mean, a young boy growing up in Barbados, of all the different roads you could have taken, what led you into wellness and coaching?
Yeah, I thought about that very deeply, and I wanted to pinpoint the exact moment in my life where that started to happen. And I would say when I was 14 years old. And it wasn't deliberately in the beginning. So let's share this story, James. Really, really cool, important story. So, when we were young, sometimes mothers try to do too much. So, my mom attempted to cut my hair. Yeah, I had hair back then, but it had patches in it. So, my brother, so these little holes, it wasn't a good haircut. So, my brother shaved my hair off. So, I went to school. Imagine this 14 years old going to school with a bald head. And I went to an all boys school. So, you can imagine what would happen in an all boys school with a bald head, right? So a lot of my colleagues would just throughout the day would give me a little thump around my head, playful tap around my head. So after lunchtime, where my form was situated, there were levels. So you have first form on one level, second form, and then third form on the top level. So in order to get to the third level, because I was 14, I was in class 3 at the time, you had to go up flights of stairs, and at the top of each level you had these landings, these rails where boys would sit, right? So I was going up to the final level, and everybody was giving me little taps as I walked up to my class, and we just having fun. It was no big deal because everybody got their turn, all right? But this one guy decided that he wanted to show off, and he slapped me really hard, right? James, I don't know what happened, but the blood rushed to my head. I was backing him at the time, taking another step up to move up to my level. But I calmly turned around and I gave this guy a cuff in his chest with everything I had. And at 14 years old, I had man strength. So that was a pretty hard cuff in his chest. I didn't even look to see what happened. I turned around, went to my class, did my final 2 periods, and then the bell rang at 3 o'clock, and I was going down the flight of steps to the landing where that boy was sitting. I remember seeing two young men to the left and the right of him holding him to stop him from falling over.
Mm,
And this is 2 stories high we were.
mm,
And when I got to the rail and I looked over, I saw a wall with glass bottles sticking out of it.
mm.
So in my mind, I said, "Whoa, if that young man had fallen over, he would have been dead."
Wow.
and my life would have been different from that day onward.
Mm.
So I promised myself, James, that I would never allow myself to get that angry ever again.
Wow.
Ever again. And today, people would literally tell you, yeah, Paul, yeah, he is so calm, he's so peaceful. And it built, I believe, from that particular experience. I mean, there's a lot more, but if we're talking about beginnings, and again, this wasn't deliberate, I believe the journey started from there. I'm teaching people how to be peaceful and connected and all that. There's more
Wow.
parts to the story, but I'll stop it right there.
Well, good. No, that's very profound. Teaching people how to be calm and peaceful. So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, well, there are many reasons. Um, One is obviously we're in very difficult times, nationally and globally, where
Mhm.
people feel so stressed out. There's so much
Yeah,
unrest. There's so much fear. People are struggling with so much anxiety.
yeah.
And here you are with messages of coaching and transformational living. People might feel like, well, with all that's going on, how could I not only reach my goal, how could I live a more balanced life? How could I find this peace? We were just talking about peace before we went live and joy. What is
Yes.
your message to that? I mean, how do you respond to those feelings?
Yeah. Also, another interesting question. You may not like the response to this question, but I'm going to say it anyway. The key I'm learning to managing stress is to not get stressed,
Mm,
is to get ahead of it. And an easy way, even though you're going through whatever it is you're going through, the easy way, and I'm saying easy in context, the easiest way to get to joy or to manage stress is to start very early in the morning filling your cup, as people would say. So as soon as you open your eyes, before that momentum starts to build in terms of your situation and what you're going through, before momentum is built, you get ahead of it. So whether that be you waking up and expressing gratitude for the good things that are going on, because even in the mix of trouble, you can find some good. So the mere fact that your eyes are open, so I'm getting some also good feedback here. You're seeing that too, James?
yes, yes. There was some. The camera just glitched a little bit. Um, yes,
Okay.
but continue. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. So
Yeah,
you were
so right,
talking.
so it's ready to get ahead of it. And so no
Okay.
matter what, as soon as you open your eyes, you need to go where you really want to go in your mind. So if it is being more peaceful, you go gratitude, you start expressing gratitude for actually the good that is going on in your life, you go there. So that you can start getting into the energy of the good before you have to face what people call the real world. And if you make that an ongoing practice, then it's going to be harder for more negative things to come to you because you're already in the energy of those other things. And then you're embodying, right? Peace, happiness, joy, gratitude, all of those higher order feeling states and emotions. So that as you go through your day, right, some of those things will bounce off of you and your perspective, your perception of your reality would look a little bit different.
Well, I love that. As a spiritual advisor working with people, one of the things I often remind people of is just having some type of spiritual practice. Because to your point,
Yes.
I feel like without a spiritual practice, to your point, is we go out into the world, but we become like it's like having no vaccination. I mean, whatever vaccination means to you,
Yeah.
it's like you're giving the outside world permission to knock you off your center. And it's easy because, to your point, we haven't filled ourselves up properly. And so, well, then we don't stand a chance. To me, what I'm about to say sounds dramatic, but it's almost like committing suicide in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
because we haven't given ourselves a chance to overcome the psychological warfare that's going on.
Yeah.
Um, so tell us about how you help people unlock more of their potential, because I'm sure you know there's this saying that most of so many live far below and beneath what our potential is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've worked with so many people, both men and women, where do we start? How do we get more out of what God gave us and offer this to the world and offer it to ourselves?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. All right, so I'll address that by what happens when people come to see me.
Okay.
And it's really, everything is driven by, well, almost everything is driven by the beliefs that you hold as your truth. So, what we spend a lot of time doing is to create the beliefs that will support what you're asking for or what you believe you want for yourself. So, when a client comes into session, they usually come with a particular problem, right? So, you talk about what they want instead of that problem. So, we don't spend a lot of time talking about problems in session because
You do not.
you just bring on more problems,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So if someone wants to talk about their problems, then they can speak to other practitioners, their priests, their rabbis, their doctors, whatever. Because when you come to me, it is really about it's action time, right? So this is what's happening. What do you want instead of that, right? And then we focus on the creation of what you're asking for, more so than the creation of what you're already having that you don't want. All right, so the conversations are very different. So once we figure out the beliefs that support what they're asking for, what we would literally do is create a situation where your brain is going to be cohesive to that idea. Right? So there's certain body postures that you can hold through what we call muscle testing and kinesiology because I use a method where the body communicates with the mind and literally tells you what you need to do to get what you're asking for. It may sound very abstract right now, James, but the bottom line is once you can integrate a belief that helps you to move towards where you want to go, and that belief is integrated into your nervous system, it's almost impossible for you to not get what you're asking for. So that is how I help people to pretty much transform life and manifest the things that they're asking for. It's belief driven.
So, I like what you said about it becoming like almost impossible to not get what it is that we're asking for once we frame our mindset properly. Could you talk more about that? Because I love
Mm-hmm.
that notion that it becomes almost impossible not to have the success and the joy that we wish.
All right, so when we're struggling, there's a phenomenon called brain dominance.
Hmm.
Right, so it means that one hemisphere of your brain is dominating the other. So when we speak about coherence, it means that both hemispheres are aligned and
Hmm.
working together so that you would have the full capacity of the left and the right hemisphere working together to help you to get what you're asking for. And there's nothing more powerful than you having your entire brain working on your behalf to help you to get what you're asking for. Right? There's no competition between we can call the emotional side versus the rational side. I mean, it's more than that. This is how people understand the hemispheres,
Hmm.
right? So once both halves are working together, they're coherent, right? Then is when the universe seems to conspire to help you to get what you're asking for. Because there's no brain dominance, right? Both sides are working together to help you to get what you're asking for.
Wow, I love that. And on a personal level, part of the reason why I love that is we just lost him for a minute. Paul, are you still there?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Okay, yeah. For some reason, we lost your camera. Yeah, so I love that because partly because of different projects um, I'm working on. So I'm just going to just speak to the audience. We lost him there for a moment. Um, I love. Let me bring him back. It looks like he's back. We're sorry for these technical difficulties. Um, one moment. 1 second. I'm trying to bring him back to the stage.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So what I was saying is that there's certain projects that I'm working on in my personal life, and I was telling my team like, look, there's no way that we wouldn't find the success that we want. So it's just a question of keep moving, keep planting these seeds, and keep going. So I love so much what you're saying. So talk a bit about hypnotherapy and how we can benefit from that. That's another core practice of yours.
Okay.
Did you talk about why this is so crucial?
Yes, you're full of good questions, aren't you, James? All right. So the first modality I spoke about is psychological kinesiology, also known as psyche. So hypnotherapy is a natural state. So, even though it's a natural but yet altered state of awareness where your mind and body is relaxed at the same time, so that that chatter that usually goes off in our heads is pretty much suppressed or diminished, so that you can focus on the most important things that you're asking for. All right. So it's just like you being relaxed, and then we're having a conversation with you in a very, very relaxed state, where your mind is open to positive suggestion. It's a lot more open to positive suggestion. When people hear hypnotherapy, all kinds of stories come to mind. Um, but let's speak to the natural part of it for a few seconds. Have you, I'm going to ask you a few questions, James.
Sure.
Really, really easy, right? So, have you ever watched a movie, let's say a comedy, and you caught yourself laughing?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. So, the mere fact that you're engaging with the movie and you had a response suggested that you're in a trance state. Your body and your mind are relaxed, and you responded as if what you're watching is totally real. So, you're engaging, you're having a really good time watching this comedy and engaging. All right. So, that's a hypnotic state. All right. So from that place, we will have a therapeutic conversation to help you to get to where you need to go. Have you ever felt hungry when you smell good food
Yes. Of course. Yes.
started salivating and things like that? Again, that's a hypnotic state. So again, I'm just giving examples of the naturalness of that state that we call hypnosis. So similar to being in a meditative state, it's similar to being in a prayer state. Your mind is activated the same way in all of those ways, right? And from that space, we have the therapeutic conversation. All right, so all hypnotherapy is therapy when your mind and body are relaxed. And
Wow.
it's faster because it gives you access to your nervous system, which does the regulation of the changes so that you start getting the beneficial results sooner rather than later.
Wow. That's fascinating. And how would you advise people to on their own to try to get more into that state?
Mhm. Well, if anybody prays, they know what it feels like. If you
Hmm.
ever got on your knees and you pray, you know when you're connected to that higher being.
Hmm.
So a lot of people are already experiencing it. You can do simple guided meditation practices. Meditation is a hypnotic state. So once you can clear your mind or you're focusing on a single idea, you are in hypnosis. You can watch television. Keeping it really simple, James. You can watch
Yeah.
television. And when you start interacting with the movie that you're watching, hopefully it's a positive movie that you're watching, you're in a hypnotic state. And from there, you can actually pause the movie and you can actually start affirming what you want to create for your life. Same thing when you smell good food and you start salivating, you're in a hypnotic state. So from there, you can go into whatever positive story that you're creating for yourself and stay with it until you actually feel as if it's already happening in your life, and then stop it, go back to watching the movie. When you're out with friends, having a really good time, you're laughing, you're engaging. When you're with your peers, you're in a hypnotic state. Just imagine when we were teenagers and we were having a really good time and we were trying to figure out life, and your friends were telling you certain things, even though they were lies, you believe it as your truth. And then you started to live out this lie as a truth. So again, your peers, people you spend time around, they actually are responsible for putting you in a hypnotic state, in a trance state, and from that space, you start creating what life is supposed to look like for you. So there are a number of conditions that you can use to set this up in normal life. That's really easy, easier than we really think.
Wow, I love those simple examples. One of our viewers, Allison from Trinidad, says that's very interesting. So also, we do welcome questions of any kind. So don't be shy if you're watching us and you want to ask the questions.
Mhm.
Now is a great time. So Paul, before we went live, we were talking about joy for one of my friends who is listening here. She tries to promote joy. So
Okay.
one of the things that you said that was interesting, you said that oftentimes when someone close to us is suffering, we feel we need to be suffering too. And you were
Yeah.
telling me about your experience with your mom.
Yes.
And so what I was sharing was, because so much of the world isn't suffering, we often think that, well, we need to be suffering too,
Yeah.
or we need to be in activism mode all the time. And what you were saying, I forget exactly how you phrased it. You said joy is, I forget exactly how you phrased it. Joy is one of the most important things
Yeah.
we could strive for. Could you talk about that? Because it's a message people need to, contemplate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. As I said, and this is the first time I've ever said it to you. Nothing is more important, in my opinion, than being joyful. Nothing. And if you really think about it, whatever we are asking for, no matter what it is, once we scrape away the stories, right, we always reach. You see, I really want that because I want to be happier. I want to be more joyful. I want to be more blissful. You think about it, just do this experiment. Whoever is listening, just do this experiment and keep asking this question. So what's that going to do for you? So what's that going to do for you? So what's that going to do for you? And at the end of asking that all of those times, you're going to always reach joy. So I've come to the conclusion that nothing is more important than happiness, than joy.
Right.
So we always need to reach for that no matter what we are going through. And in terms, just linking it back to what we started to talk about with my mom and her passing, as you mentioned it, my mom passed 5 years ago, and I did not give myself permission to be joyful for an entire year. And I have skills, right? So it's like for a whole year, I forgot that I had a skill set that would allow me to be joyful until Christmas morning came the following year after she had passed. And I got this impulse to go to Bath Beach in Barbados. So this is a beach in the eastern side of the island. So Bath Beach. So I woke up, I was home alone, I woke up, said Bath Beach, what's it all about? So it was pretty early. So I went back to sleep, James, and Bath Beach came to me again. I said, what? So then I went back, I said Bath, I said, okay. So I left home, drove to Bath Beach, like 45 minutes away. And as I was, because I write my prayers, so as I was on the beach, sitting on this log that was on the beach, I was writing my prayers and crying like a banshee. Streams of tears coming down because I already missed my mom. We were very, very close. And my mom came to me as I was writing and told me, son, you did everything within your power to make sure that I was cared for and that I was happy. You are a good son. Go about your life and have a good time. I am good. It was really weird how she came to me, and it was came to me clearly and very profoundly, James. And from then on, I gave myself permission to be happy. But I'm saying this to say you don't have to wait for something like that to happen. You can actually decide that happiness is your birthright. It's your birthright. And get to happy as soon as you open your eyes. That's the easiest way to get to it before any other momentum starts to take over.
Well, I love that, because it's, on the one hand, it's simple, but it's so profound the way how you expressed it. It's like, I mean, to your point, when you ask people, well, what it is that they want, and then you go deeper, like you said, and you ask, well, what is behind that? What is that going to do for you? I mean, you're absolutely right. I think you're right that no matter how we look at it, well, why might we want more financial abundance? It's because of something else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or even if we take the position of, um, wanting more justice in the world, well, because it leads to something else, right?
Exactly. We
Or
want people to be
why
happy.
why the relationship? Well, it's because of something else.
Yes.
So it's a very powerful way of framing that. So here's a question we have from, Pamela Joy. And now her question is, how can we begin to rewire those inner patterns to give ourselves permissions to fully receive?
Mm. Oh, good question, Pam. All right, so here's the thing. Let's tackle this in terms of those feeling states that promote manifesting, right? Or getting what you're asking for. And James, I know you can tell me this one because we're talking about it already. So being in a state of joy helps you to manifest what you're asking for. So you literally gotta choose joy or go after things that allow you to experience more joy until you start embodying it. Right? So when you spend more time in those good feeling states by choosing things and people and situations that make you feel good, then without even trying over time, you're going to start creating those inner patterns that allow you to get more of it, more peace, more happiness, more joy, more fulfillment. All right, so it's just a matter of choosing and then, embodying joy, deciding that joy is so important that you're going to create space for it on a daily basis, no matter what you're going through. Whether it is celebrating the end of a day with a candlelight shower, or listening to really good music, or having a conversation with a friend who is pretty funny so that you can laugh, or watching a good movie. Have a list of things that you can do to feel good. Maybe it's some decadent piece of fruit or dessert that you know you shouldn't have. You sample it and yeah, you feel good in your body until that becomes an inner thing so that you don't have to reach outward for that feeling. It's okay to reach outward until it becomes something that you don't need the outward thing to experience. But both things can happen at the same time. So have that list of things that bring you joy, list of people that bring you joy until you can own it, for yourself. And then you start embodying those things, and then you don't need the external things to help you to get there.
Wow, that's powerful.
But
Um,
make it deliberate.
well, and you said like make it deliberate. So Allison, Joseph is saying that while the ocean does heal and speak to us, she's talking about the many different ways, ancestors, speak to us.
Mhm.
Um, so, so I wanted to pivot here for a moment. Well, here's a question. Let's get to this question. Um, How is choosing choice so this is from Jerome Lockhart. His question
Mhm.
is, how is choosing joy different from self-medicating or avoiding?
Mm. It's safer, it's healthier for you in the long run. And the thing about choosing joy, too, you got to do things that are joyful for your body. One of the things I promote a lot because my first background was kinesiology, physical education. And clients who come to me, I always recommend that they engage in some type of movement. Otherwise, I don't work with them. It's that important, James. Movement is that important because when you move, there's literally a cocktail of neurotransmitters that surge through your body that creates healing by just moving alone, right? We can talk about oxytocin, serotonin, um, and the list goes on. So, choosing joy can come in the form of movement where that would come to you automatically by just moving. Self medicating, it's not the healthiest thing, but different movements can help you to get to joy a lot easier than if you choose not to move at all.
Well, that's profound what you said about movement and you not choosing with people unless they choose to move. That's very profound. So
Hmm.
we've had we have a guest joining us, Simone Arthur. Simone, thank you. Simone is a medium from the great island nation of Barbados. Simone, thank you for coming to share some wisdom with us.
Hi.
So good to see your
Hi,
smiling
Paul.
face, Simone. Hi, hi.
Hi.
So So, Simone and Paul, tell us about this event that you have coming up, the Black Men's Wellness Weekend in New York. Tell us about that, Simone. We could start with you. Tell us about the inspiration behind this and what people can expect. I mean, why at this moment? Why?
Well, James, thank you for having me on the show today and giving me the opportunity to talk about the Men's Wellness Weekend that is taking place June 13th and 14th at Weeksville Heritage Center in Brooklyn, New York. As most of you will know, I host ancestral experience annually in Barbados. It was held last weekend. It's always the first weekend in May. And this is our fourth year, and it was our fifth retreat. And for the last five retreats, we've been hosting this, and it's only been women attending. So we positioned it to be a women's only experience. And over the years, folks have been asking about, hosting something for men. And I personally didn't feel comfortable, having that discussion because who am I to sit in a space with all men to talk about their ancestral experience, their spiritual experience, even though a chunk of my clients are men. But that's different when it's one on one versus when you're in a group discussion. So, Paul and I have been friends forever. And, we were both aware of the work that we're doing, helping people on their spiritual journey and their wellness journey as well. So when the discussion came up again about hosting an experience for men, I talked to my team and I said to them, I said, listen, I have a friend named Paul Seeley, and he is amazing. He used to be my personal trainer, and now he's doing all of these great things. And I think we should consider him for a men's experience. So, Paul would tell you he and I had the meeting first. Then he had to meet with my team. Then he had to meet with me and my team. So, we have these processes that we go through now once we've decided the practitioner we're going to work with, right? And so the team came back to me. We had our own meetings like, okay, Simone, he has passed the test, and let's talk about what this is going to look like. Now, initially, we wanted to have an experience, of course, here in Barbados. So, the men will get what the women are getting. But because this, is a team of women, and we needed to kind of create a platform, letting men know that this is a safe space, without judgment, and that we are intentional with the work. So once we decided we were going to bring Paul in, then we needed to find a venue. As one of the team members suggested, Weeksville Heritage Center, which was founded by a man named James Weeks. Ta-da! And so that was the beginning of where the start process of where we are now. Um, the majority of my clients who come to me for spiritual readings, guidance on their spiritual journey and wellness journey are women. And a lot of times we get into discussions about their intimate relationships, um, heterosexual women and their intimate relationships with men. And, I don't know, it's the energy. We are in a year nine of change. Change, if you're speaking of Ifa or Risha's, that's Oya. That's her number. She comes in swift with a machete and she knocks things over to rebuild. And we are recognizing that a lot of our men, especially Black men, are having some major challenges with where they stand in certain areas of life, right? Especially when it comes to the intimate relationships with women. And so, even my male clients are like, Simone, there's certain things that society wants me to do. I don't want to do that. And I don't feel I should be made to do it. So if we are empowering women to make their choice, make their own decisions, and decide they don't want to be in certain spaces and certain times and not be forced to do anything, men should have that choice too, right? And also, there is a struggle I found again, with my conversations with my male clients, that they're not sure on what their wellness should look like. Because everything, they should be strong, they should be manly, they should figure it out, they should be able to handle their families, their spouse, their children, their parents, life, the mortgage, their jobs, their career, their education. And there should be no breakdown in that. And they ask, well, Simon, what do I do? Like, where do I start in figuring all of this out, but also to take care of myself and know and understand and respect the power of a no, be able to say no and standing that. So these continuing discussions, I realize I need to create a space and hold space, for men of color, to have these discussions. And so, hence the birth of Men's Wellness Weekend. Now, to be clear, when Paul is conducting his workshops, I will not be in the room. I will not be there because I've gotten a lot of pushback about the fact that, I am hosting this. Am I going to be in the room? And men have told me, I'm not going to feel comfortable if you're in there. I'm not going to be in the room. I'll be in the vicinity, in the building, but I'll not be in the room because I want you to feel comfortable to express yourself and to ask questions, to be wise, and for Paul to be comfortable enough to have a discussion with you, and y'all, the men just work it all out. And I come in the end, and I may talk to you for a little bit about ancestral veneration and how that can help with your journey. And then we start, the next day, and that's it, 2 days. And I'm feeding you. I'm giving you breakfast and I'm giving you lunch prepared by Chef Jackie Scott. She is a Barbadian chef based in New York. And she is preparing fresh pastries from scratch, and we have juices, and you will be well nourished for the 2 days. I will not leave you hungry. Want
Caribbean,
you,
Caribbean style.
yes, as a black woman, I'm going to feed the black man, and you're going to be fed well.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
So, how can people find out more about the wellness center? What's the best way for them to? I mean, sorry, the men's wellness weekend. What's the best way to get in touch with either of you to find out more about this event?
Well, you can visit our website at sacredconversations.com, and you click on offerings, and you will see a whole list of events that we have going on. But the main one will be their Men's Wellness Weekend. You can read more about me, you can read more about Paul, and you can register um, for the event. And once you've registered, we get the information, and then we respond to you with a payment link, and we go from there. And we give you all the instructions. Obviously, because this is an ancestral space that I have been guided by the ancestors to create, there are rules and regulations, right? So, I mean, it's nothing hard and fast, but we have to make sure that we are still in spiritual alignment as we host these 2 days. We are on ancestral ground. Weeksville Heritage Center was created by our ancestors, and it is a spiritual space. So we have to honor that as well. So just so you know, there's no alcohol, there's no smoking, there's none of those. We ain't hanging out afterwards. We're not, pumping it up. That's not going to happen. This is really, we are intentional and focused on wellness. So just to be clear, because we've had a few folks reached out to us, and they make it seem like a party, and that's not what this is at all. I sound like a school teacher all of a sudden.
Well, so I love this. So I love the nourishment, the food, and all these things. So
Yes.
talk to us about ancestral veneration, which has been a huge part of your work. Um, how can people get more in touch with their own ancestors? And you're a big proponent of this idea that all of us have like a love language that we use to
Yes.
could you talk about that? How can people get better at getting their own messages and understand and taking action on their messages?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the love languages, and that is basically communicating with our ancestors by our senses and recognizing how your ancestor chooses to speak with you. Fortunately and unfortunately for me, all five of my senses are activated in my communication with my ancestors. And I say that unfortunately because sometimes they want to use all five to get a message across at the same time, right? So I have had to train them that, I can't hear, see, touch, feel you all at the same time. That's an overstimulation. But what we need to understand is that those that have passed on still have work that they need to be done, and they want us to do it, right? Whether or not we agree with some of the work, they want us to do it. So we first have to understand and to know how they are communicating with us. We can see them physically, like be able to describe what they look like. We may have known them or we may not have, right? We may able to hear them. They speak to us, giving us instruction, giving us reassurance. And we may or may not be able to recognize that voice, right? The other thing, we may feel them, taste them, smell them. All of these things are ways in which our ancestors try to communicate with us. And this communication and understanding how they're communicating with us back and forth is important, because they're bringing us messages to help with our current lives, with challenges that we may be going through, to give us warnings about things that may be coming down the pipeline that we have to be prepared for. So this is part of your spiritual journey in really having that connection that would help you with your own self-care, with your own self-motivation, with understanding your destiny, your purpose in life, and your meaning in life. And that things does not have to be that hard all the time. If we would just tune into who we are and where we stand. Now, I get some pushback from Christians regarding that, and I said, well, you communicate with Jesus, and Jesus is an ancestor, so we all doing the same thing.
Mhm.
So then everybody gets quiet and be like, okay, I'll get back to you, right? But if you have a grandmother, a great grandmother, your parents, Paul just talked about his experience with his mom coming to him on the beach. That is profound. And he had that moment of grief after a whole year of just being in that space and just letting it all out. And she come to him and said, well, son, I'm good over here, I need you to be good over there,
Mhm.
and continue the work that you're doing. So, and that's not abstract, that is real. That actually happened to him. And I could tell you countless of stories where my ancestors have shown up and be like, all right, Simone, this is about to happen. Be prepared. And I'm like, what? And then when it happens, I am prepared. So no one, you know, can surprise me. I just finished the ancestral experience here in Barbados,
Mm-hmm.
and it was historic. The reason why I said it was historic is because I had a participant who was 77 years old, a 77-year-old Black woman came to my retreat and allowed myself and my team to pour into her. That's profound because she's a mother, she's a grandmother, and she's a great grandmother. And she could mother all of my team that was there, including me. But she stepped back and she said, I'm going to allow you people who I don't know, but I trust being here to pour into me. And when I tell you, we poured into her and opened up things in her that was closed and ignite things that she didn't even know existed. And we also made connection with her loved ones. With one, and I call her a facilitator. My youngest facilitator is 12 years old. And she was present working with us, me and my team this year. Showed up and showed up. And that is important because we are passing this knowledge on to the next generation. And the exchange between a 77-year-old woman and a 12-year-old girl child, to see that unfold is magic and profound. And we were able to do that in sacred conversations with our ancestors here in Barbados. I don't take my work lightly. Paul doesn't take his work lightly. And James, you don't either. This is why we are here now, sharing this information and helping people to improve their lives. This is not a coincidence. This is the work of our ancestors.
Wow. Um, I love that. Um, because we have about 10 minutes. Allison is asking a question, and I'll put her question is she's asking when you're having that retreat again.
The next one is next year, the first weekend in May. I pause and I smile because I have a weekend on booked in October. And I was pleading with the ancestors. I said, just let me finish up the year because I'm doing 2 events already. Do not put another experience in my plate. Let's just wait for 2026. But there's this weekend in October that is on pause. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet. My team has asked me not to close it off, so I'm leaving it. But the next one officially is in the first weekend of May 2026, right? We are going to release all of that information in September. So I give myself a few months to jump and play mass for crop over in Barbados, put on a really sexy costume, relax and get myself together. Then to start back the promotion. But guaranteed, it is always the first weekend in May. So next week, I can't remember what those dates are. The first weekend in May in 2026.
Wow. So we
Yeah.
have about 10 minutes left, and what I'm hoping we could do is this is for both you, Paul and Simone. Half the year is basically over, and for people who, let's say, won't be able to do either the retreat or the men's wellness thing, what advice would you give them? Like, if there are 3 tips that you want to give people to, like, how do we maximize the rest of 2026 if we're not where we want to be? What would your advice be from either a personal development standpoint or a connection with ancestor standpoint? What would those 3 steps be? 3 tips that you would give to, like, okay, this is what you should do for the rest of 2026.
Let Paul go first.
Oh, you're in such a nice flow, Simon. Okay, I'll go first. First thing, move. Get your
Yes.
body moving.
Yes.
Right, that's more important. That is super important because you're gonna heal a lot of things by just moving. Right, you can do your own research. We spoke about neurotransmitters. We spoke about hormones. We spoke about feel-good chemicals. Moving alone is healing. So just get to moving. It could look however you want it to look. Find something that you enjoy and just move. And you don't even have to love it. Just move. All right, so that's one. If you say that you love yourself, feed your body things that suggest that you love it.
Yep.
Don't feed it emotion, feed your body things that suggest that you love
Yes.
it. Because most of us eat for emotional reasons. Usually, when we reach for something that isn't good for us, we're feeding an emotion as opposed to feeding our bodies, right? So, feed your body things that suggest that you love yourself and you love it. The other thing is twofold: start and end your days in gratitude and in that good feeling state. So, for instance, if you're ending your day, you reflect on all the good things that happen during your day, the highlights, etc., and then you double down on thinking about 2 things that you really appreciated in your day, and then drift off to sleep. When you wake up, you're going to continue that positive momentum, and then you start from that place and go into gratitude again. Gratitude, meditation, etc. So take care of yourself in those last moments during your day and the first moments as soon as you open your eyes, and build that momentum before anything tries to infiltrate. All right, so move, feed yourself like if you really love yourself, right? And then end and start your day on a positive note. Usually in gratitude and prayer, meditation, working out, whatever that looks like, create that, as James said, that positive ritual that gets you in that mind space so that you can build momentum from that space.
Well, that's profound. It's simple enough, but it's such. I mean, it's so profound that we don't hear about this often enough.
Mhm.
Movement, you know. Then, like you said, feeding yourself like we love ourselves. Gratitude at the beginning and end of the day. I love this simple, powerful tips.
Yeah.
Yes, Simone, your thoughts?
Stand in your truth. Stand in your truth. Be your authentic self. Stand in integrity. you know, that is being challenged a lot these days. You know, this lack of integrity. Stand in that. Um, be still more often. Trust your intuition.
Mm,
Trust your intuition.
mm,
If your gut is telling you this isn't it, it's not it. However, be mindful because sometimes we think fair is our intuition. Sometimes our intuition shows up as fair.
mm,
Let me tell you a short story. Last year, I was told that I was not going to have a retreat this year. And I, like, foolishly agreed. I was like, yeah, it looking like this thing coming to a close. So the nighttime now, Spirit wakes me up at 3 o'clock. But everybody knows that's the witching hour. Why are you having discussions with someone about if you are going to have a retreat or not? That's not their call or even yours.
mhm.
That's our call. We made that. This is the conversations I'd be having through, and my team could tell you these things on phone. Because when I'm in those moments, they're like, okay, we got to sit down because Simone is having her conversations. You or this person or anyone else can't decide when this thing is coming to an end. And I went back to the person and I says, I got dragged for agreeing with you.
Mm,
And they are absolutely right. Your relationship with your higher power, God, Buddhist, whomever your ancestors, is between the two of you. It doesn't have anything to do with someone else.
mhm,
It's the
mhm.
truth. And I had to learn that at 3 o'clock in the morning when I got draped up for agreeing to madness. And imagine if I had signed off on that. I would not have been able to tell you this evening, this afternoon, about having the experience of sitting in a sacred spiritual space with a 77-year-old woman who listened to other women who she could birth and took in everything that we had to say and heard us and experienced her ancestors showing up through each and every one of us. That is mind blowing. That is mind blowing. So be mindful of who is pouring into you, because some people are pouring their own fears into you. Yes, man.
Yes.
And I had to learn that. This retreat was different. All my retreats are different and different experiences, but this one held on differently. And I remember when at the last night of the retreat, we have a family dinner. My chef, we have a chef that cooks for us at all our events. So just know, again, it's intentional. Chef Dane, he cooks for me and my team and the participants. And I said to them, I says, I don't know what this is going to look like for 2026. But based on the experience I'm having this weekend, I know it's going to be another profound experience. So I may have given you more than three things there.
No, I love it. Well, no,
But
it's. I mean,
it is important,
it is.
especially that we are now under this energy of this person ruling the free world, whatever that is, but you know who I mean.
Right.
We really got to stand firm in who we are and where we are going to position ourselves
Mhm.
and be ready for whatever is going to unfold
Mhm.
and know that we are going to be okay.
Yes. Well, I love it. I mean, for so many reasons. It's because, like you said, there's that danger of us, like you said, co-signing onto someone else's foolishness or their fears, you know, and allowing their fears to become what we think, which we have to push back, you know, and to your point, to take our work seriously, you know, and not lightly, you know.
Yeah.
I love both of your contributions today. So I will close with my three tips.
Yes.
Would be inspiration. I'm a firm believer in inspiration, allowing inspiration to work with us. It's to follow that inspiration wherever it leads, one. Two would be being persistent with the direction we're going in. I mean, too often people give up quickly if things don't unfold the way they want it to unfold. Then they start to second guess. Well, maybe it will never happen. Maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe this is wrong. No, you want to keep getting up every day, keep showing up um, every day, you know, to do that work that we have been called to do. And three would be finding a way to like uplift someone else or promote someone else, the work someone else is doing, you know, because in promoting someone else, you're just elevating what consciousness. Um, so Paul and Simona, thank you so much for being with us before closing, could you remind us again how we could get in contact with either of you to learn more about your services or the wellness weekend coming up?
Again, you can reach me on sacredconversations.com, Sacred Conversations underscore on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, and Readings by Simone on Facebook. And we're still going through that transition of moving from Readings by Simone to Sacred Conversations. But sacredconversations.com, and tap into any of these social media platforms and we're there. Paul is not on social media, but he'll
Um,
tell you how you can find him.
yes, I'm not yet on social media. But I have a website. You can go to Mindcap, MINDCAPP.com to find out more about me. Regarding the workshop, find Simone. I'm going to find the workshop, not the workshop, the retreat information.
Yes.
She's the go-to person.
Well, thank you again, Paul and Simone. You have my
Thank you.
support as always, and thanks for all of those who are tuning in now or later. We appreciate your love and support.
James, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, 1 minute.
go
So the
ahead.
next time we do this, we have to do this with you being our Barbados, because it's three of us and two of us in Barbados and you are somewhere else. So it's two against one. So you need to come to Barbados. We sit in the studio and we do this like, you
Okay,
know,
for
the big
sure.
dogs. Okay, good.
Definitely, definitely.
All
Well,
right.
I have some Bajan roots, so I'm definitely coming. Yes,
Yes,
Nice.
yes,
beautiful.
yes, yes.
Great, great, great.
Looking
Okay.
forward to
Thank you
that.
so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. Have a good
All
All
day.
right.
right. Thank you,
Take care. Okay.
James.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
All right. Bye
Simone.
bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure. I really love your wisdom. It's just it's so simple and profound at the same time, you know. So
Yeah, thank
I
you.
I love I just love the wisdom that you shared, you know.
Yeah, thank you, James. So, like you, it's important to live what you're speaking about.